Hello, I am Jonathan Crook, Print Technical Consultant for HP. In this training video, I will quickly show you how to use the import and export function in the FutureSmart 5 firmware platform on our enterprise class devices. Depending on your model and firmware level, some features or buttons may not be available. Today, I'm using an enterprise class 6 series device with FutureSmart firmware version 5.8. So the import export function is designed to allow you to essentially clone or copy settings from one device to another. And it's always best to make sure that the firmware level of the device you are exporting the settings from is the same firmware level that you are importing into on the other device, right? So to do that, you're going to open up the embedded web server of the machine and you're going to sign in as an administrator. You're going to go to General, Import, Export, and then we're going to start with export files. And you can see here, there are multiple checkboxes that you can select to pick and choose what options or settings you want to clone or copy from the machine you're currently logged into. So you can see here, I'm checking off each one just so you can see kind of some of the settings that are available. Now, a lot of the times, you're not going to necessarily clone every single one of these settings. Sometimes it may be as simple as just cloning accounts and permissions for embedded job accounting, or perhaps the local address book, right? So in this case here, we're going to just do the local address book. So once you've selected which options that you want to export, you're going to hit export. And what it's going to do is ask you for an encryption key. Now, this is really important. Some of the settings that you can select in the export function do include passwords. And in order to ensure security with those passwords, an encryption key is required when exporting out of the new firmware. And this will ensure that when you're importing into another device, when you put in that same encryption key, all the settings, all the login information and passwords will be there as well. So for this here, I'm just going to do a basic encryption, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'm going to hit OK. From here, it's going to export the information into a zip file. Now, most of you may be familiar with using a CSV file, potentially an XML file. But because we are exporting potentially login information, such as username and password, we are using a zip file that it is encrypted. And while the encryption is there, I do have a couple different exports to show you. So the one that I just did for just the users and their PIN codes, that's just a CSV file, right? This here, when we open it up, it's actually going to have all of the basic information, right? And so you can see stuff like this, right? So there's no need for encryption on that, but we do require it when it comes to everything. Now, the other one is one I did earlier, which is exporting everything here. And you can see here, there's more files here, including this private data file, right? So at this point, when you are focusing around exporting stuff that has user information and for security purposes, you can't edit this, right? And so it's important that if you are copying or cloning user settings, passwords, things like that, make sure you set up a singular machine first with all that information and then export it out. Now, if you're doing something as simple as the address book, then that's not as important because in another video, I'm going to walk you through how you can create an address book import from scratch. Even though it's a zip file, I can show you how to build that out and import that in. So if you're going from one manufacturer to an HP, it is possible, right? But when you're dealing with users and passwords and stuff like that, set it up on one HP first, then export it out, and then you have all the data built into that zip file. So once you've exported it and you've gone over to the new machine and you want to import it in, right, you're going to go through the same process where you're going to log in as administrator, go to general, but you're going to go to import files. And when you go to import files, it's going to ask you to choose a file and you're going to select the zip file that you want and you're going to click open and you're going to put in that encryption key. And yes, I know it does say optional, but with the new firmware, it's requiring it. So you might as well go ahead and put it in there, even though it says it's optional here. And then you can see down here the context, right? So the local address book, what's important about this is you can either replace what's on the machine or you can add to what's on the machine, right? So our default is merging the corresponding address books, but you can replace it and just basically wipe what's on there and put a new one on there. But once you've figured out all this information, you're just going to click import. And depending on how many settings it's importing into the device, it may take a little bit longer. This should be fairly quick because I'm only doing a couple things. And you can see here now the import was successful. And that's basically how you export settings out of the machine and import them using FutureSmart 5. And I'm on firmware 5.8. I hope this has been informative for you. Have a great day.